Welcome to Seizing Valor, where we discover God's path for manhood, one conversation at a time. I'm Zach.
And I'm Joe.
Joe's got a sweet new look going on here.
So I am wearing blue light glasses because we were recording late at night. I figured I would just hop on this trend, and it's been working overtime. I've actually had these and another pair that broke before this. I just haven't done it when we've been recording very often. But you're not really seeing my eyes, which I'm leading into the segue. We're going to be talking about vulnerability today, Zach. You're not seeing my eyes, which is also
off, Joe.
it's a sign of vulnerability when you can see other people's eyes. So.
Yeah. So, yes, we were talking about vulnerability today. So, yeah. Joe, I love you, man.
I love you too. Vulnerability is not a weakness.
Exactly. Expressing your feelings as a man. We should be able to say things like that and be able to express our brotherly love without necessarily having people be judgy about that.
Mm-hmm.
Or, and that just comes from, and not just, I think we as men get that bad rap or that bad example of like, you need to, like, vulnerability is bad. Vulnerability is like the worst, or like you're not a man if you're vulnerable, or if you express feelings, or if you express, affection or whatever. But that is not the case. That is not the case. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about that more later, though. And we're going to talk about why, how you can still be a man, but be vulnerable at the same time. So anyway, Joe, how was your week, buddy?
My week was great. Started coaching up again. I was a swim coach. And that's good, seeing a lot of kids that I had seen last year get back at it. Some weren't athletic over the summer, but and some were. So I'm excited to see like what they could dish out. A thing that I was involved in today was I had been speaking back and forth to a guy from Scotland who plays worship team music just like me. I'd always loved his tone. I'd always loved, because he had done some consultations with a few other people. So I reached out to him. I said, hey, feeling a little bit static in this area. I was a little bit overthinking in this area, but we talked for a good 2 hours or so this morning, just about stuff on my board, on my guitar board. And he's going to give me a solid detailed list because he's pretty detail oriented like me. We exchanged our information, and it was good. Very convicting and also validating in a lot of the areas that I have pursued as well when it comes to guitar.
Yeah. It's awesome that you're getting involved in coaching. Makes me miss it. It's my first winter in a while. I haven't been coaching anything.
Yeah.
I mean,
how's it feel? It's almost like, okay, I have to go to practice now. Like it's almost instinctual.
It's surreal. I mean, I've been keeping track of results for the teams that I was coaching, and for the kids I've been coaching, and seeing how they're doing. They're doing well. It's been a good season, so I'm glad to see that. It's been at the college level. We just kind of ended like mid-season invite time, so being able to see everyone's like rested times and everything was nice. But it is weird. It is very weird to not be coaching, and there's a lot of things I do miss about it. And maybe I'll be diving back in at one point, maybe at a volunteer level somewhere. But I mean, it's really awesome, Joe. I'm like glad you're doing it. Like, I'm glad you're coaching. I mean, it's especially at the high school level. I mean, I coach at the high school level too, and there's something about the high school level that is frustrating and difficult, but also at the same time super rewarding, because it's just such a pivotal formation time in like kids' lives. And like when you really are able to make that difference, it's just it's so awesome.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I continue at it and have even after like this placement that I'm at, like I continue to maybe at the age group level, because that's always a good time.
Yeah. If there are any fathers listening to this, or parents in general, get your kids involved in swimming. It's an amazing sport. Builds lots of confidence and camaraderie and discipline and all the good stuff. It's not as super competitively intense. You can be any type of person and really do well with swimming. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, and plus it's low impact. It's good for the joints. It's a full body workout. And I don't know. I can keep going on and on about swimming, but yeah.
What about you? How's your week?
Oh man, what a week this was. So on the note of swimming, actually, I recently found a group of people to swim with it's kind of like a master's team. It's like an unofficial master's team is the way they described it to me. Like they're a group of, they don't have, like they all were on a master's team at some point, but I guess they just really didn't renew the team membership or something, but they all still come to swim together anyway, like at the Y that I go to. And I just kind of happened upon them one week, and then they invited me. And so eventually, most recently, I kind of took them up on that, and I started practicing with them. And so it's been really fun. It's been really awesome to have like people to swim with, and you know as well as I like how much better it is to swim with other people than by yourself.
Yeah, working out anytime with other people. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
want
just
more
so much
too.
more motivating, and like you feel, I don't know, something about it feels good because you're also like, oh, I'm also socializing at the same time as I'm swimming, and whereas instead of just like, oh, this is just a workout I have to get done, like
Break up the
I would probably
monotony.
not swim for more than half an hour by myself, but these like have been like hour-long practices, so I've like, it's been so great, and they were so welcoming and awesome. So yeah, so I've been doing that. I plan on kind of keep doing that, and it actually really worked out with my schedule because there was a master's team that's a little bit of a drive from where I'm at, but it would be doable. But like the times were not like working out well. But these guys, like their times like work out perfectly with like my schedule, and but they're not like advertised or anything, so it was just such a godsend, like literally, that I happened upon them. So that's been good. I've actually gone back to playing tennis again for a little bit. That was just today that I've gone back to doing some indoor tennis because there's a few indoor clubs around here, but I've been doing a little bit of that, which is good. Trying to get back into it with the idea of like doing it for fun and for stimulation and exercise and stuff, and not worrying so much about being hyper competitive, which I have a tendency sometimes to do, and not in swimming as much, but definitely in tennis it happens. And
Yeah.
but like I'm coming at it with a new mindset, and I think at least it's hard to say after just one time, but I'm hoping I can kind of get more enjoyment out of it in that way. And it's just good. I mean, it was good. It was actually it's like a clinic today. Like, you know, it's just like hitting around, playing games with like different people, tennis oriented games, which for people who don't play tennis, I guess it's hard to think about that. It's like, how is there a game other than the one where you just hit it back and forth? But I won't explain, but there's different things you can do for training that are like fun. It was just really well run, and I really like this club, so I'll probably be going back when I have time.
Cool.
And outside of that, I was at two more young adult events this week, back to back. So one yesterday and one tonight. I'm literally have just arrived from that event tonight. So yesterday, what we do is called Benediction in Board Games. So what happens? We do adoration, so of the Blessed Sacrament. It's a Catholic. For those who don't already know, I am Catholic and I work for a Catholic diocese. So we do like exposition of the Blessed Sacrament. We do Mass first, and then exposition of the Blessed Sacrament, and then after that, there's like a social afterwards, which is mostly like there's pizza, but then like we play board games and stuff. Which was really fun. We played I was at the table that played Code Names. You ever played Code Names before?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Definitely
like,
played it at a college.
Yeah, like trying to get people to guess words based on a hint, and like you're trying to, I don't know. It's for anybody who's listening, go look up Code Names. I will do a very heavy disservice to it. It's a very fun game, but it's very hard for me to explain. But it is fantastic. And so we played. Our team lost, best 2 out of 3. We were tied 1-1, and then we lost pretty badly the last time, but that's okay. It was still fun. It was still very fun. And then tonight, I was again with the Latin Mass community over at our one parish. And so then we had Vespers, was it Vespers? Yes, I think so. So which is like night prayer. So like in Catholicism, we have this thing called the Liturgy of the Hours. And so you pray at one point, it was like 7 different times of the day. You do like these prayers. But then based on which traditions you follow, it can be compressed and things like that. But anyway, Vespers is the nighttime version, night prayer. And so we had that, and then after that we had like a social, like a potluck social. And so I was able to meet a lot of new people. And the thing about Latin Mass communities is there's not a whole lot of them, because there's usually like maybe like one per diocese or something like that, and maybe not even that sometimes. So people literally travel to these from like very far away. So I got to meet a lot of people. I actually, ironically, got to meet a group of people from Scranton, which was, I had never met them before, even though I had lived in Scranton. But they were a group of 4 siblings. And so I got to talk to them and got to bond over Scranton and its intricacies. And then then there was also somebody else who had gone to like Misericordia, and then someone else who was currently going to Marywood. And then someone else I think had graduated from Marywood or something. But like it just so, or like somebody knew someone we knew. So it was literally like there was like 5 to 10 people of all just this connection of some kind with
And they're
Northeastern.
around our age range, right?
The one was, yes. Like
Okay.
so some of them maybe a little bit younger, but it was just crazy. And like it was just so weird that I met these people and like that all these small connections were going. It seemed like every time someone new would sit down at our table, we would find out some weird connection with everyone else at the table, which was very interesting. I told them about Seizing Valor, so I hope some of you are listening right now. You know who you are. And
Hope to meet you someday.
what?
Hope to meet you all someday.
Oh yeah. So it was a really good time. It was a very great event. I was very happy. It was very, once again, meeting new people, and just even as the director of youth and young adult ministry, I love when like you see events and like everyone's happy and everyone's like having a really, really good time. And that and the community there is just very nice. I mean, they have a very young priest there, or at least the priest that's the associate pastor is very young, but man, is he a darn good priest. I mean, I went to confession, guy was fantastic. So anyway, but yeah, so two very awesome events where we got to grow closer to our Lord as well as to each other. So yes, it's been fantastic. I also baked cookies for it. I haven't baked in a while, but I baked cookies for the first time, and they were pretty much all gone by the end. So I must have done a decent job. Yeah, I mean, it's been a really busy past few days, but in like a really, really good way. Like there's the type of busy when you're doing things you want to do and then doing things you have to do and you're busy. Like it's just such a fulfilling feeling. So yeah, and also we got a holy day off this week, which was good because the Feast of the Immaculate Conception was on Thursday, and so we always get days off for that. So it was kind of weird going in on Friday because most people then took another day off, so to make it a long weekend, so it was very empty.
Yeah.
But we also got somebody new in the office, which is actually fantastic. We got a new director for like stuff like hospital ministry and like prison ministry and things like that. So they were in for like this was their first week, and it was really awesome to have them. And as our office is growing, yeah. So yeah. Anyway, that was a long answer, but I feel like I always say that. It was just,
you sounded busy. I think busy is good.
yeah.
I think
Busy is good. Busy is good. So anyway, yeah. So that was my week. It was chocked full of really good stuff. So I'm very happy about that. Yeah. I don't know how we transition this. Just we talked about ourselves, and that's kind of like being vulnerable. So transition time. All right, everyone. As we said at the very beginning, we're going to talk about being vulnerable, like about being, or just like being vulnerable, being emotional, being open. So as I was kind of saying, like this is something that really gets a bad rep with men in particular. That the olden ways are like the hard chiseled man with the stony face that like nothing ever gets to you, or that you like don't have feelings, or that you're tough as nails, or like to share is to be weak. Which I definitely agree, there's a level of like no man should let his emotions like rule him, or like I don't think you should be, I don't know. Well, I don't know what the best way to put this is. I don't think you should be like a wet noodle, or like is that I don't think you should be like mushy necessarily.
it's trying to find that balance. You don't want to be mushy, but also at the same time, you don't want to be that rock. It's very hard to be vulnerable in this day and age. We as Christians, we should believe that being vulnerable means that you're honest with other people about, one, who you are, two, how you feel, and acknowledging like these innermost parts of yourself that you would rather keep to yourself. It's not about a social media life, an Instagram life, just showing the best parts of yourself. It's about being real with God, of course, and the people that you are most close to, the people you meet. It's very hard to be vulnerable, like I said before, to feel out of control and anxious about certain situations, because that's the world, knocking up your front door. Christians we're reminded throughout the Bible, that God is power. but God is also grace, and he's telling you that you are enough even in times of, you know, hardship, vulnerability, you know, all the turmoil. You know, he's in control, and you know, we're not going to be abandoned in those moments. So it's okay to be
Mhm.
vulnerable.
I guess kind of speaking from personal experience, I guess when I was growing up, I never necessarily thought that, well, I don't know. I did not necessarily think that being stone cold, like emotionless was manly. Like I kind of feel like I was growing up in a way in a household that was like, it's okay to be, um, like emotional, like it's okay
Mhm.
to like feel feelings like as a man, even though my dad is not like a super like emotional person like out in the front, like in the exterior, though he is like, I mean, he can be emotional at times, but I mean he's very like even keeled, and that's not, and it's not in a stony hard way, it's just kind of like his naturalness, but he'll still share, like he'll still share, but like he's not like naturally emotional. um which is fine because I never got like the feeling that I was expected to be like stone cold, hide my feelings. I guess sometime when I was really young, like the idea of being like mysterious, I think was kind of the thing that
It's
attracted me
attractive.
to it.
It's attractive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you know, the cool guy, the cool aloof guy, like in the cartoons and
In the
in
movie,
the
yeah,
movies,
yeah.
like
Everybody
wearing the
wants to be,
shades.
yeah.
Yeah,
Who's the vampire in Twilight? Edward.
Edward.
Everybody
Maybe
wants
not like
everybody
that, but
not
like,
not not creepy like that, but I'm talking like soft spoken, not
yeah,
saying too much.
yeah, like you're cryptic, like type of thing, or like
Cryptic,
you
there you
don't. It's not like you're emotionless, but you're like a conundrum. Like, you
go.
know, like the typical like guy in the shades that's like kind of like leaning against the wall, like arms crossed, like, you know, the aloof guy. I don't know, like the anti-hero or whatever in all the movies and whatnot, or the superhero shows, like we're the cool ones. It's like, oh, I don't want to be this soft, like
Yeah.
hero guy that's all like, I want to be like the slightly edgy anti-hero guy. Um,
Yeah, a lot of that comes from I'm a huge Clint Eastwood fan, and you know, being hard rock and stone cold, like being like the man with no name type thing, like those westerns.
yeah.
That's something that, you know, even if people don't watch that, they kind of can relate to that because they like that mysteriousness. Because when people don't really say anything, uh, even like I remember Josh was talking about Quiet Girls like a year or so ago for like a Feeling Grounded episode. He was saying that that makes people attracted to that quiet person because of the fact that they're not saying anything. There must be so many like wandering
Yeah.
thoughts like in
The
their head. We just got
mystery
to
is
get them
kind
out.
of, yeah, it's like everyone loves
Yeah.
a mystery. So it's like this idea of people want to figure you out. I guess I kind of was I kind of see it more as like I was like a cartoons and maybe a little bit of like some animes when I was a kid.
Right. Right.
Like so anybody who's seen Dragon Ball Z like type of thing, it's like I don't want to be Goku. I want to be Vegeta. Like Vegeta is all aloof, or Trunks. Like I'm aloof and mysterious and
Yeah.
moody, and
Yeah.
but like I don't know, something about that I guess as a kid was like that's cool, and I want to be
Yeah.
like that. Or but then as I got older, like as I got older and I like started getting into high school, I think I used that as more of a defense mechanism, like
Sure.
than it was like I wanted to be the guy that no one could figure out because I didn't like I felt like if I exposed too much of myself that would be exploited, and like, in high school like people would bully you or something like that. It's like
Right.
I always wanted to, I didn't think I was the coolest guy. I didn't think I was the strongest guy. I was definitely not a guy that would fight back if anyone tried to fight me or something. Like
Hmm.
I didn't see myself as strong. Like, so what I tried to use to my advantage, I tried to just be mysterious. I tried to be like, kind of keep that level of like, people don't really know me. So they don't really know how to like handle me. Not in a way that was mean or like, because I was like, the people I was closest to like knew who I was and I was nice to them. But like a lot of the people that didn't know me as well, I tried to keep up this air of mystery because it kind of
Hmm.
kept them at arm's length,
Keep the
because they're
veil
like,
up. Yeah.
I'm not gonna try to like pick on that kid, or like I'm not going to try to do anything to mess with him because I really don't know how he would respond. Like I don't really know. So or like I don't know what he's into. Like, I don't know what he's into. I don't know like what type of person he is. So like that was kind of like my defense mechanism. By keeping people guessing, they had nothing to like exploit, because that was like the
Yeah.
feeling of if you revealed too much of yourself, someone's going to exploit that in some way.
Right. You hit it nail on the head. It's a defense mechanism, especially as you get older. I would say that I also did that for very similar reasons too. when you do get hurt, uh, in high school or college, when you're starting to grow up before you reach the age of 20, those are very vulnerable years for you in here. And you want to
Mhm.
make sure that no other people sees the hurt that you had before. So you become that soft spoken persona.
Mm.
That at least that was my experience. And truth be told, that was a persona that I kept going for a lot longer with the relationships that I had with other people, even into my early to mid 20s as well,
Mhm.
just because of the fact that it was familiar.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. I would definitely say through my early years of college, I definitely kept up that same mentality of like that air of mystery, like would get people to respect me or at least not, or at least respect my space and not know how to take me. But and then like carefully choosing who to open myself up to, I suppose, which was very few people when I was in high school. But then I think and then the faith element didn't, I guess, help because I knew, like, in high school, like, not really many people cared about faith. Like, I was
Mhm.
in a public high school. I don't think they, like, it wasn't, like, persecuted or anything, but I just don't think anyone really cared, so I kinda kept that to the side, and for me, I'm not sure if it was much as I was hurt as much as I guess I saw a lot of people getting hurt around me, like, in terms of being picked on and things, so I, like,
Mhm.
tried to keep myself from that. Um but then in college, I really feel like I opened myself up more because I found like that Christian community that we were part of. Like I was
Yeah.
able to feel like, oh, I can be vulnerable with these people because we have this faith thing and that like we know we're going to care about each other regardless of, who we are as people because we have this in common. But then as slowly as I was opening up, like I found out these people were into these similar things as me that I would not have told anybody in high school except my closest friends of like,
Right.
oh, you're into video games or oh, you're into like I don't know, certain types of movies or like you're into this, that, or the other thing. So like I that was when I really felt like I could start being vulnerable with more than just like one or two friends. I felt like I was being able to be vulnerable with a group. Um, so that was kind of like the next stage, at least for me, is that I started being vulnerable about like the basic things.
Mhm.
Things that I
Mhm.
thought that would be embarrassing, which I don't even know why some of us are embarrassed about this stuff. Everyone's like back in the day, you're embarrassed about playing video games. Like literally everyone plays video games. Like literally now it used to be like a nerd thing, but now it's like literally everyone plays video games, like in
Yeah.
one way, shape, or form. Like everyone plays video games, or like something like everybody watches anime, like or at least guys. Like it's like you watch something that's anime. Like I
Yeah.
don't even like I don't know what it is. It could be just like Dragon Ball Z or whatever, but it's something that like back in the day would have been like marked you as like a nerd. Like it's literally like no, no, everyone does this whether they admit it or not. Like
Everyone had the veil up. That's
yeah,
that's the freeing thing.
yeah.
Um, yeah. I'm a classic rock fan, as it goes, but this is kind of a little bit more folk. I really bonded with this song, by Simon and Garfunkel called "I Am a Rock," for years upon years, and I still love to listen to it. But now I have to compartmentalize the message of the song versus, how to actually live,
Mhm.
because it's tempting, like to be that person who is a rock, who experienced that hurt. Uh, and the final couple lines, it's a rock feels no pain, and an island never cries. I love the poetry in that song. Like I love Simon and Garfunkel. It's really good to listen to when you want to just like reflect and just like be in a role just for 10 minutes, and then go
Mhm.
back to like not always taking that advice. Um, but like being that was my persona, and it's interesting going into this whole vulnerability subject, um, how much I've grown.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree too. And even that level of, well, I kind of want to comment on that first before I go into what I was going to say next. But yeah, the idea like a rock, yeah, doesn't feel pain, but a rock doesn't also feel anything.
It doesn't
Like so a
move.
rock can avoid like the worst miseries of life, but it will also never experience the greatest joys.
Mm.
Like if you completely shut yourself off from emotion, you're cutting yourself off from like a lot of really great
Great
stuff. Like
opportunities, yeah.
yeah, joy, even sadness can be like such a liberating thing.
Mm.
Like just I don't know, like that thing that men don't cry. That's ridiculous. Because first of all, Jesus cried in the Bible, and if Jesus can cry, every man can cry. I'm
Yes.
just gonna put that out there. Like, now, should you sob like every time you see a rainbow or something? No, but like a good, meaningful, liberating cry, like at things that are sad, like that really like trouble you, like that is a wonderful thing. That is a liberating thing.
Sure.
Because crying is how you express, is how you show that things mattered. Like, you know, like grief is something that hurts, but it also like grief can't happen unless there's love. So yeah, those people that harden themselves off from because they're afraid of grief never experience love. Like, this idea is that if you cut yourself off completely, or like you cut yourself off to the bad stuff, you're also going to be cutting yourself off from the good stuff. Which doesn't just hurt you, it hurts the people around you too.
Right.
Like, I can't imagine like being like in a relationship or in a marriage, and like you're so hard and you never express like joy or gratitude or even affection because you're just so hardened. Like, that's not good for your wife. It's not good for your wife or for your kids. Like, emotion's also how we bond. Like, when you cry together, that's a bonding thing. Like, when you weep together, when you laugh together, like when you like experiencing emotion can be a thing that bonds people together. But like, if you don't let yourself experience it, then you're isolating yourself. And
Yeah.
this kind of goes back into the point I was going to make, you know, this idea that when we build walls, they don't just keep other things out, they keep us in.
Yeah.
So like, they don't just keep out the hurts, they keep us away from everyone else. So like, it's, you become isolated. Like, when you become emotionless, you become isolated. And we already talked about in the previous podcast how isolation is how the devil works us into bad places. Like, isolation is how he starts off getting us into patterns of sin. Is isolation and shame drives particularly addictive sin. So like,
Yeah.
when we isolate ourselves through emotionlessness, the devil is going to kind of work with that. Like, and that's, yeah, I don't know, that's something you don't want to, you want to avoid. Now, once again, you don't be emotional all the time, but like, if you have to know, you have to be open, I suppose. So
Right.
yeah. And I know there's, so moving on, like kind of moving on, so at least in my life, I feel like I thought I was open at that point. Like, you know, like in college, like going back to what I was talking about, I thought I was open because I'm like, oh, I can express all my interests, and I can express, you know, who I am, like, you know, who I am as a person, be like free and open. But even then, I was still hiding stuff. Like, I was still trying to, and I think these two things couple together, like this idea of emotionlessness and like hardening yourself from emotion, and also the idea of perfectionism, like this idea of you want to appear perfect to everyone else, or like all put together. And emotion, it's kind of that same thing. You don't want to express weakness, you don't want to express imperfection, you don't want to express emotion, because they both are perceived as weaknesses. And I was still doing that, I think, a lot more than I realized. I was not being vulnerable about my weaknesses. I was not being vulnerable about, because that is true vulnerability, like vulnerability about your weaknesses. So like the struggles I've had that we've talked about on here, like the struggles that I've had with different things, or my own patterns of sin, or I was just bottling that up and trying to, like, my family knew about those certain things, but like, I did not let anyone else know, because I felt like I had to have that persona of like the guy who had things put together, or that like I wouldn't be desirable if I didn't look like I had things put together.
Sure.
So then also kind of being still emotionlessness in that sense. And it was only really this year, I mean, since we started talking about this podcast, and even since I started, you know, going to like doing therapy and things like that for the anxiety stuff that I've had, that's built up as a result of that, as of the hiding and the hiding weaknesses and trying to have that a persona, is, yeah, as you said, if you build a wall around yourself, it's like the anxiety can't escape. So it starts bottling up and starts spinning around, and then it starts like, it has nowhere else to go but to attack you, because you're not letting anything out. So that's kind of, I mean, that's a very rudimentary way, I feel like, of talking about anxiety. But anxiety, I think, happens a lot when you bottle stuff up. And that's kind of what happened to me. And I think now I'm starting to heal better. I'm not perfect. I'm definitely not perfect. I won't be perfect. And just needing to admit those faults. Like, I struggle with these sins, or I struggle with those sins, or this is what's wrong with me. Or even just like, I struggle with anxiety. Like, that's fine. That's, yeah, an imperfection. That's a weakness, so to speak, but like, it's okay. Like, it's fine. Or like, we struggled, like, I've had problems with porn in the past. Like, that is a thing. That's real. It's a weakness. But like, the fact that I've been able to be vulnerable about these things, just, and it makes me actually feel like more of a man, because it's hard. It's scary to share these
Yeah.
things, to trust people. But trusting is one of the hardest. But as men, we should feel accomplishment in doing things that are hard,
Right.
not things that are easy. So like, sharing is hard. And I think a lot of people use the excuse of being emotionlessness and like hiding and not feeling, because they use the excuse that it's like manly, or they use an excuse that it's being strong or whatever. But I really think in a lot of ways it's being weak, because you're not tackling the things, you're ignoring them, which is not strength. Like, strength is hitting the things head on, and that means like admitting them, talking about them, telling other people about them, dealing with them. So I think it's like, this thing is, people like use this guise that avoiding this stuff is strength, when it's actually weakness. It's like, and you're covering that weakness with like this
Yeah, yeah.
lie. Um, and I feel a little bit more like a man like now, because I've been able to tackle this stuff. I've been able to share this stuff, and I feel like I now have the potential to be a better and a stronger man, because especially um, for all those listening, I think as men, being able to share things between each other, like with other men, is so important. Is like, I don't want to say it's easy to open yourself up to like a female in a lot of occasions, because it's depending on who it is. Like, but there is a level of, I don't know. There's just something hard, like, because with a guy, once again, that expectation that you're, and there's this level in us as men. I think we're still competing with each other, like alpha male type thing. It's like, get your chin higher than the other guy, so that you don't want, even with your own friends, that you feel this competitiveness sometimes, that you don't want to give them that vulnerability. But
Right.
man, let me tell you, like, it is so worth it when you find like a group of guys that you can just share your heart with, because there's things that only another guy will understand,
It's
and things
interesting
that
that
only another guy you can help with you with.
it's interesting that you brought up vulnerability between the sexes, or even between the opposite sexes. We've turned vulnerability now today. We've turned it into a weakness. Vulnerability, for one thing, it's the key to opening doors with other people. It's the driving force of actually connecting with other people. Like you said, it was terrifying. It's scary, but it's also brave. It's tender. It's impossible to connect with other people without it. Like I said before, we've made ourselves quote unquote strong
Yeah.
with not being vulnerable. We've hardened, we've toughened up, we've protected everything that's in here. Everything from vulnerability, and we disallowed any type of surrender, and that kind of like that tiptoes into our surrender with the Lord too, even if we consciously don't even know it.
Yeah.
And that's a huge issue. When we come close down to vulnerability, we're shielded from hurt, harm, but we're also shielded from intimacy and connection and love with other people. Without vulnerability, relationships, they're gonna falter. Vulnerability is just saying the word, like, even if you're talking to God, here I am, God, here are my hardened edges, my secrets, my fears, my affections, just even to other people. Say, be careful, they're precious, but I'm inviting you in return. It invites, oh, I see you there, it's okay, you're safe, you're here, here's me too. It's terrifying, but it's also brave.
Yeah. This idea that you hit the nail on the head, Joe. This idea is that if we can't trust other people, we start not trusting God. Like literally, vulnerability is an exercise in trust. Because I'm putting a disclaimer out here right now. Does this mean you should open up your innermost feelings to anybody? No. Like you should still find people that you trust to do this. But like,
yeah, upon first connection with, or first meeting a new person, going on a date with a new girl, do not lay all of your
or like a guy you like just started
met.
maybe being friends with.
Don't
Like,
lay that all out first time, even the first
yeah.
couple times. Just
Yeah.
it's a good social skill.
You got to like work your way into it. But the idea
Yeah,
is we're saying like don't block that off from everyone. Like don't be hardened to everyone, but like be open to be vulnerable to someone once they get to that point where they deserve to be trusted.
right.
Which is important. And I think it's important to note too, is I think a lot of us harden ourselves up because we think it's going to be like better defense or better, like we're going to last better. But God, the verse in the Bible is not a really like hardened link of a chain will not be broken. It says like where one does fall, like two can resist, and you know a three link chain is not easily broken. Like
Mhm.
there's power not in material, there's power in numbers. So this idea is like don't make yourself into a hardened link of the chain, make yourself into a part of a longer chain, and that's how you will resist, that's how you will endure. Don't try to necessarily strengthen yourself or like put yourself on spiritual steroids to carry your own cross even without God's help. Like you need have other people help you carry it, because first of all, if you can't let other people help you carry it, you're not going to let God help you carry it, which is
Mm.
I think really important, because there's so much about, we could have a whole episode on this about just how much our relationship with God affects our relationship with others and vice versa. Usually one bleeds into the other, like one then back and forth. So it's just being able to once again be vulnerable so that you can cooperate with God and with other people. And I guess one thing, like one last sort of thing I want to brush on is we opened this episode with the idea is like me and Joe both said we love the other guy. Like that's something I don't think as men we say often enough.
Yep.
And I know Josh would want to have this said too, because I know he agrees. We don't say that enough because we see that as unmanly. And first of all, we need to clarify that like not all love is the same love. Not all love is romantic love. Like when you say love, first of all, our English language is extremely limited when it comes to the word love, because most other languages have multiple words for love, but we got lazy and we're just like love and maybe like or like really like, but like it's not, love is not all the same. Like when I say I love bacon is not the same as like I would love my wife should I have a wife. It's not the same type of love. The Greeks had like 4 forms of love, and I'm sure many people have heard this before. But you had storge, which is like the love of like just the typical like really strong affection, or I like something. That's like if I love bacon, that's like storge. It's like stuff is most of the stuff like things that you like storge. You have eros, which is like erotic, romantic, like sexual love. Which like between spouses, like that's what you should have. You have agape, which is selfless, ultimate, self-dying love for someone. So like that's the love that God gave us on the cross, and that's what we're all called to emulate for everyone. Like no matter what, whether you arrow someone or not, you need to agape them. Like whether you like you need to love everyone selflessly. That's what we're all called to do. But the one I want to bring up is like philios, which is a love between friends,
Yeah,
which is the
brotherly.
4th form of love. Philios, which is where we get Philadelphia, which is the city of brotherly love. This idea, which philios is a brotherly love, though it could, I guess, technically be a sisterly love too, or just a love between a girl and a guy that are friends. So this is like friendship love. So like when you are really good friends with someone, that is love. That's not like, friendship is a form of love, and it's an important, very important form of love. In the Bible they talk, especially in Proverbs, like they talk about friendship a lot and how important it is, and how finding good friends is both rare and incredibly valuable, and like just as much as romantic love, like that it's that important, that like having good friends. Philios is not inferior to like eros. I mean, they're all kind of inferior to agape, but once again, we're called to agape everybody.
Yeah.
But philios is just so important. And I think when we say, like when I say to you, Joe, that I love you as my brother, like that's philios. That's like as my brother in Christ, as my friend. And I think not enough people, like not enough men, especially, like are open to saying that or willing to saying that, because they're afraid that they're going to be judged in some way for that, or it's going to be taken the wrong way.
Mhm.
But I think it's something we got to tell each other, because, as I said, male friendship is important, and we have to express that it's not just, I don't know, an arrangement between two dudes. It's like it's a bond.
Exactly.
Yeah, that requires vulnerability. So,
Well said.
thank you. Yeah. So me and Joe, we love all of you that are listening in a way that is both agape and philios. Maybe even storge. I don't know. Maybe we love you at that basis level. But yes.
Because with agape, the veil was torn when he was on the cross.
There you go. There you go. So don't be afraid to be vulnerable, people. Don't be afraid to be open. Don't be afraid to love, and don't be afraid to show it. If there is one thing I want everyone to take, is that don't give in to the lie that vulnerability is a weakness, for it is actually a strength. For being hardened is not strength, but weakness in itself. So yeah, be open to God and to those closest to you, and know that it will make you stronger. Yeah, that's what we got. We've wrung this one dry. Let's take her out here, sir. Why don't you? I guess I should do the tag, because I opened.
Yeah.
You should hit us up with prayer, sir.
I can hit some prayer. Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna hit some tag here. So for all y'all people listening, if you like what you hear, you should like, you should subscribe, and you should share this podcast. All right, whether that's on YouTube or on Spotify, which we are on both. Help us with the algorithm by pressing all those multitudinous of buttons. Maybe leave a comment if you want. But at the same time, what's better than the algorithm, though, is you, my friends, is word of mouth, by telling other people about it. So if there is someone in your life who you think will benefit from this, please direct them to us and to this podcast. You can
Men or women.
What?
Men or women.
Men or women. We are mostly a men's podcast, but I believe there's a lot that women can learn from what we talk about as well. And also we have other media content, not just on YouTube, but we're on Instagram. So check us out at Seizing Valor.
Do it for the gram.
And if you ever want to contact us in a more private capacity, so if you're not comfortable leaving comments and you would prefer just to kind of contact us in a more or less public domain, you can email us at seizingvalor@gmail.com. So whether that's comments, questions, concern, queries, any of those things that start with the hard C noise, or just prayer intentions, which I can't think of a way to spin that starts with a hard C noise. So yes, and I think that's it. Finally, for anyone listening, if you have not gone and downloaded Josh and Claire's Advent album, how dare you? You should totally do it. You can find them pretty much anywhere you can find music. Season. You can find them. So they're definitely on Apple Music and Spotify. I know that, but pretty much anywhere you can find music, you can find them. It's Claire and Josh, and the album title is For His Glory. And you can also go, what's even better is you can go to claireandjoshmusic.com, and you can either buy the MP3s or a CD directly if you still have a CD player. I know I have one in my car, but you know, I don't know what your technological situation is for everyone listening. But yes, all of those ways, please support our buddy. Not just because of that, because it is a darn good album. Man, those two are good at singing, and Josh definitely is good at that, editing that music. Plus, it'll get you into the Advent spirit, because we're about halfway through at this point. I think that's it. I think that's it for plugs and tags and all the things in between. So I think it's time for Joe to take us out in prayer.
All right, let's bow our heads. God, thank you for this day. Thank you for this conversation. Lord, help us know that we are known by you, and to accept that we are accepted by you, to love ourselves as much as you love us. As we show that we are vulnerable towards other people, that will pay dividends in our relationships with the masses, with people that you want us to meet, Lord. May we have the courage to be vulnerable and to get out of our hardened lifestyle, to live a life of absolute truth that you are the foundation of. Um, for you are the living one that sees us, God, and you know, as the door to our heart opens, it frees us, it opens us um, to love others without reservation. Embrace this imperfect life that we know that is not our full home. With joy and with pain, that comes all that intimate connection that you have built us for, God. Knowing the well that you are our firm foundation, God, as we behold you again. The door swings, God, open and forth, and you open those doors for us because of our faith in you. You are the living one that sees us, and I pray that everybody listening here would be open as well, because you are the one that started it all. The veil's torn, and you love us, Lord. In your precious and holy name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you all for attending, and we will see you all next week.
See you later.